Hello, and welcome to Global Data Themes Instant Insights. At Global Data, we define a theme as something that keeps a CEO awake at night, as businesses that invest in important themes will succeed, and those that don't will fail. Hello, and welcome to Instant Insights. I'm Emma Taylor, and today I will be talking to Senior Technology Analyst Rob Pritchard and Service Director Emma Mohr-McClune at Global Data, following the recent publication of their ESG in Telecoms and Tech report. This report hails ESG as the most important strategic theme of the decade. Hi, Emma and Rob. Thanks so much for coming on today.
Hi.
Hi, Emma. Thanks for having us.
So, ESG. ESG stands for Environmental, Social and Governance. So this encompasses areas from climate change to human rights to risk management. Rob, let's start with you. What do you think the relationship is between this theme and the technology sector? How are they intertwined?
To be honest, we all use technology as consumers or as enterprises on a daily basis. We all are living in a world of changing climate and increasing awareness of social and governance areas. So it sort of affects everybody, to be honest. And technology in particular, as a sector, is key to this because although it is seen as a big user of natural resources, it is also an enabler of a lot of the solutions. So think back to the COVID-19 event, the pandemic, that had it not been for things like broadband and cloud communications and so on and so forth, then white-collar people in particular, white-collar employees in particular, would not have been able to adapt to the environment in that sense. So tech is pretty much at the cutting edge of ESG, and it's a progressive sector in terms of both its approach to market, its search for rare talent, and its focus on investment return. So then it also goes into what tech companies provide, whether they be consumers or enterprises, because the demand is out there. So it's driven from every angle. It's the ESG demand in tech and telecoms.
And Emma, what about telecoms? So what areas are telecoms companies focusing on in ESG at the moment?
So on the environmental side, the number one focus is energy efficiency. And in this respect, it's mostly about the network, but also increasingly about energy efficiency throughout the entire telco operation. So we're talking about the retail plants, the headquarters, but even all the way down to new product design to make it low power, more energy efficient. And particularly in the network in the last few years, we've seen giant steps made in the area of automating the energy efficiency of the network using artificial intelligence, using IoT, reducing the redundancy at every level. And that also includes the evolution of the network. So if we think about accelerating the decommissioning of those less energy efficient networks, the DSLs and the 3Gs, the 4Gs, and moving faster towards those more efficient fiber and standalone 5G alternatives.
So they're working hard on the environment. And what about social?
And then on the social side, well, none of these themes are new, really. Telcos have been taking things like employee health and safety and diversity and inclusion. These have been big topics for a long time. And I'd really say the focus today is on the quantification of those principles, using wherever possible digital tools to measure, but also to help flag and correct those weaknesses. So the rallying call on the social side is around digital inclusion right now. Rob, you mentioned COVID. That was really telco to showcase their ability to keep whole communities and even nations connected. And that's really been brought to light, the telco role in making sure all sectors of the community have strong access to connectivity and online tools for education, for welfare, just about everything you can think of.
Right, so they're actually playing an incredibly important role there. So who are the leaders in the theme at the moment? Which tech companies are getting it right? Do you have any sort of examples there, Rob?
Yeah, I mean, broadly speaking, tech companies, telecoms companies are ahead of the game. environmentally, Google have been carbon neutral since 2007. So that's way ahead of the game generally. And they're committed to be carbon free by 2030. But this isn't exclusively to Google. I mean, pretty much every company I can think of in the sector has made similar commitments. It's also part of a cultural leadership thing. So to deliver it properly, you have to have it from the C-suite down to the bottom end. So someone like Colt, for example, they actually include ESG training for all their staff, and they're very committed to delivering on ESG targets. They also, I think, are aware of greenwashing and rainbow washing, which is often a criticism that companies get. And it's very easy to stick up a rainbow on a LinkedIn post, but there's a difference between that and actually having it incorporated into your company DNA. My concern might be that in a more constrained environment and with a potential global recession, whether other priorities might interrupt on ESG. I suspect not in tech, but you can never tell until the rubber hits the road, so to speak. Then they need to prove it and need to measure it. And increasingly, in terms of measurement and monitoring, there's a sort of integration and convergence of ESG reporting with traditional financial reporting. So over time, it'll probably become as important as IRs and the general annual reporting.
Right, yeah. Well, it's very encouraging to hear that tech companies are so aware of this performative behaviour that can happen and are sort of leading the charge in ESG initiatives. They do tend to get a lot of bad press, though. Are there any areas within ESG that tech companies are possibly overlooking, like data privacy and such?
Yeah. There are certainly threats out there. It's not easy. It's not all plain sailing or whatever. There's issues. Things like face recognition using AI has been highlighted, particularly in areas of China. And then you've got the issue of data privacy and security of data. So there are, with all the potential benefits that tech delivers, there's also a lot of associated potential threats. And the companies are aware of this, and the best ones are doing their best. But there's always the threat of something from left of field. For example, all these cyber attacks that are coming from Russia to Ukraine and other places. So there are increasing threats, but people are aware of them and are dealing with them, broadly speaking, on a pretty good level.
Excellent. And what about in terms of in terms of telcos? Is there anything that they could be doing better?
Right. Well, generally, Emma, I mean, Rob, you've said this before, telcos have really mapped out their areas for improvement. But one area that I see them still struggling is in encouraging consumers to consume more, right? If you think of the way that B2C carriers have gone to market, they've encouraged users to binge on unlimited videos, unlimited data. They've bundled handsets. They've aggressively encouraged consumers to think about upgrading early, therefore new hardware. At the same time, of course, they've put a lot of energy into recycling, but still that key go-to-market is all about consuming more. And that doesn't chime well with today's mindfulness of using the internet in a sustainable way. We do have to stop watching these stupid cat videos if we're serious about saving the planet. And that is something that telcos have to start thinking about incorporating into their go-to-market. There has to be an alternative to more to more.
As a user of cat videos, I object, but I get it. There's a lot of nonsense out there, and there are these social issues, broader social issues of how much tech is causing damage. And there are a lot of mental health issues associated with them, and also things like kids getting online, seeing inappropriate material. So there's a wide range of things that continue to need to be regulated, and that's one of the challenges is regulation. For the likes of Meta, Facebook, and so on and so forth. So tech and telecoms industries are going in the right direction. They're aware of these things, but there will always be tomorrow's challenge.
Yeah, constant adaptation in this environment is key. And Yeah, I mean, it's such an interesting angle that people may not be so aware of. Listening and watching endless cat videos is incredibly bad for the environment. Well, thank you so much, Emma and Rob, for those instant insights. Thanks for listening, and from us in Thematic Intelligence, see you next time.